Welcome back to another episode of The Lofty Lender. Today I am joined by my coworker and special guest, Sara Fuller. With over 20 years of experience in the mortgage industry, Sara is still passionate about every aspect of her work. Her goal is to help people understand the buying process in a clear and simple way, knowing that purchasing a home is often the biggest investment most will ever make. Sara lives in Adel with her significant other, Gordy, along with their two adorable dogs, Gizmo and Gracie. In her free time, she enjoys camping, UTV trail riding, spending quality time with friends and family, and of course, reading a good book. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I've never done a podcast before.
I get a lot of first timers on here, so let's get right into it with the first segment, Business and Beyond. So, Sara, how in the world did you get into mortgage? Because I don't think there's an education out there for mortgage. So, how did you get into the business?
You're right. There's really not a lot of people like when they're in kindergarten and they're asked what do you want to do or be when you grow up. They don't often say, I want to be a mortgage loan officer. So originally after college, I went to UNI. I got a job with the American Heart Association and I loved it. But believe it or not, they were downsizing and they didn't need me anymore. So my brother-in-law actually worked for Midwest Family Lending in Sioux City, and he had said, go interview with Chuck and Mark. They're good people. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know numbers. I was really, really scared. And my brother-in-law was like, you don't have to know numbers. You just have to know people. So I applied and I interviewed with Chuck and Mark, and boom, that's how it all started.
Awesome. So then, what made you decide? I mean, that was many, many moons ago, but what made you decide you wanted to grow a team and bring in Taylor?
Good question with that. It took me quite a while. Like, I loved my journey. It was a hard journey. Gosh, cold calling isn't now what it used to be. Like, there's so many easier ways to cold call now than there was before. Um, but after being in the industry for a while, I actually, Charlie, you're on Charlie's team, and seeing that teamwork, gosh, it was it's a cool connection and it's a cool bond and it's just a way to just grow. And it was funny because of how it started. Taylor came up to me. So Taylor, my teammate, is married to my nephew or Gordy's nephew, Justin. And so that's the connection there. But Taylor's like, oh my gosh, Sarah's always in a good mood and she can work from anywhere, and Taylor really liked that idea. So she's actually the one that kind of put it in my head, and then after seeing how well you and Charlie work together, I was like, okay, maybe this is something fun that I could look into. And then after some searching and thinking, I was like, why not? Taylor's a awesome person, really good with people. And like my brother-in-law told me all those years ago, you really just have to know people. Everything else can be taught.
Yeah, totally true. So, what are the short-term and long-term goals with the team and with Taylor? Without, I mean, with Taylor, of course, but what's the short-term for the team, but also for yourself? Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so as far as for the team, Taylor's just been in the mortgage industry for 3 years. And over the past 3 years, there haven't been a lot of refinances that have happened. So short-term goal is teaching her refinancing now. And which is so funny. And I'll come back to the part two of your question. But when I first joined and started in this industry, that's all I did was refinances. And then I feel like that's all I did was purchases. And then all I did was refi. So it's kind of a yin and yang. And now I feel like we're kind of merging the two of refinance and purchasing at the same time. So that's kind of cool. So short term is getting her up and running as far as for refinancing. And she's doing really awesome with that. Just getting the word out that now is the time to buy. Now is the time to refinance. Now is not the time to sit on the fence and um, lose money, should I say? And long term is maybe, gosh, I say maybe growing Oh no, maybe if I find another Kyle or something like that.
I don't think you can find that, but that's all right. And to that point, I did just see an episode, or excuse me, I saw a clip from someone who posted. He's the Owen Lee. He's the president elect of the Mortgage Bankers Association. He just posted a picture that was from Fannie Mae, and it shows appreciation over the last 59 years in the U.S. economy. And every single year it's gone up. And it's, he's talking about like what investment opportunity out there has gone up every single year for 59 years. There really isn't one out there. And so when people say, hey, I might just wait and buy a house later, it's like you are losing money. It is. Why would you not put money into your 401k if you knew it was going to go up 8%? It's the same concept, except your house value is a much bigger asset that you can get access to with hardly any money down these days, right? So
Yeah.
it's interesting that that growth is definitely there, and I totally can agree with what you're talking about, like going from one to the other, back and forth. Yes, we are totally in the market now of purchase and refi together, but even like doing refis now, I'm asking you guys questions because we did a lot of refinances in 2020 and 2021. My brain just hurts trying to remember how to do those. I love working with realtors. I love purchases. I'm going to focus most of my attention on that because refis are just hard, even though they're actually easier, I think.
There's different rules, there's different guidelines, there's different timelines. It's a whole different ball game, and yet it's the same ball game. Maybe I should say it's a whole different inning, same ball game. Because you kind of start the equation backwards on a refinance versus on a purchase. You start with a purchase price and you've got your numbers and you work from there. But on a refinance, everything revolves around what that value is, but you don't know that value right away. So you've got to work up the initial set of numbers and then get the true value and then rework the numbers. So refinances are sometimes easier, but more work because you're rerunning different numbers.
Amen. Yeah. All right. So you talked a little bit about in your bio there. You mentioned something about reading and hanging out with friends, and I don't think you mentioned the bar, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. What hobbies or activities do you enjoy outside of work?
So there is a little place, not a lot of people know about it. It's called Timber Ridge. It's over in Mapleton, Iowa. And it's a membership place to where if you have a little place over there, you can ride trails. And it's ATV, UTV, dirt bikes. And you have to like to get dirty because it is not a clean place. It's very dusty, but they have, and I've heard so many different numbers. We've been members over there for about 3 years, and we just go ride trails. You listen to music and you ride trails, and some are really easy trails, and some are really scary trails, and some are really dirty trails. And even the dogs like to go because the windshield on my general comes up, and so you really get the wind in your face. And the dogs absolutely love just to go on the easy trails, but so we like to go there, and it's glorified camping. It's really what it is, and you get dirty, and you might have a beer or two.
Can you share any family traditions or values that have shaped your approach to your job or your relationship with Gordy or anything like that?
Absolutely. My dad taught all of us kids, my parents, let me rephrase that, taught all of us kids so much. But the one thing that my dad always said is, a lot of times they say relationships are 50-50. Well, my dad always had the motto as far as for you, you always give more. If you always give more, then you know that it's going to work. Like whether it's 90-10, whether it's 100, give everything, and don't ever cheat the system. Don't ever take a sidestep and try to get out of something. You always work for what you get, and what you put into it is what you get out of it. So, he was such a hard worker. He was a farmer, he was an agronomist. He had all of us kids. Mom did so amazing, like having us corralled at home. How she did it, I don't know. But my parents really taught us the value of a dollar. I mean, growing up, we had a paper route, we had snow shoveling business, we had a lawn mowing business. So we all learned what it really meant to get a dollar. I know a lot of kids just got allowance. We earned our allowance from us working. So my dad taught me hard work. Hard work is what pays off at the end.
I love that. I'm right now in the phase of trying to get my oldest, who's 6 years old, to do some chores around the house. And his reward right now is Pokemon cards, because that's really all he cares about at this time in life. But I was actually just looking the other day at my old Dave Ramsey book, because it talks about how to instill the values of understanding money and appreciating the dollar and things like that. And so that's something that he's finally getting to the point where, okay, now they're starting to talk about money in school. He wants to be spending his money on Pokemon cards, money, money, money. And I really need him to understand, the concept of it, and, how to make it, as opposed to it just keeps appearing in his bank account. So he's enjoying it, but it's certainly a challenge for sure.
Absolutely. It's those little things like setting goals for him and having that reward being that Pokemon card. So that's really cool. Nice job on starting that so early, because in my opinion, you can't ever start too soon.
And if anybody out there is listening to the show and they've got just an excess of Pokemon cards they're giving away, let me know. I don't want them going in the garbage. I eventually will probably put them in the garbage myself, or just give them to somebody else. But I've gone on to eBay, and I think I buy like, I don't know, 100 cards for $10 or something. So I just go out there and I buy a couple hundred cards and stick them in my dresser. And then after he does his chores, he gets 5 cards. He gets 5 chores for 5 cards. I was thinking I was going to do 10 cards, but my wife got a little bit more strict. So he's only getting 5 cards a week. And I think we're going to get a lot of chores, a lot of picking up around the house done. I'm excited for my 4-year-old to get a little bit older, because then he'll be ready to do the same thing. And we maybe won't have just stuff everywhere all the time anymore. I'm kind of excited.
I don't know. They're still
right, so
kids.
let's get into the quick picks segment, Sarah. What are your favorite pair of shoes?
Oh, gosh, Kyle. Only one? I only get to pick one. So recently, I had a pair that I'd been wanting, not needing, just wanting. And I just didn't know that I needed to spend the money for them. Well, we had a contest at work and I won some of the money. So now I was like, okay, now I can spoil myself and get a pair of shoes. So they're from Ever Eve, and they're just a little slide, and they're like the perfect shoe, Kyle, because they're not too tall for me. They're easy to walk in, and they're brown and black. Like, it's just the perfect combo. So they're gonna have to be put away for the winter here shortly. But as of right now, they're my favorite pair.
That's funny. I knew that, this had to be the first question, because I knew it was going to be hard for you. And I think, how many pairs of shoes do you have, Sarah?
We don't need a count on live or on podcast for how much, because Gordy will watch this and then Gordy will go and he'll probably make me purge a couple.
Do you have your favorite designer of shoes?
That's also a really good question. I really do like Steve Madden shoes, but there's a funky name, and they're called Naughty Monkeys. They're just fun shoes. They're a funky design, no two pair are ever the same, and that was my very first pair of true high heels, was Naughty Monkeys.
Ice cream or yogurt?
Ice cream.
Amen. Concert or Broadway show?
Gosh, good question. Um, I'm gonna go Broadway.
I like that. Pasta or pizza?
Pasta.
Money or free time?
Huh. Both?
Feel like you've got free time because you have money. Yeah, probably. Maybe.
Right, right. Yep.
Books or movies?
Books.
Lame. I mean, good for you. Yeah, good job. Early bird or night owl?
Um, okay, so I feel like this has changed the older I get. Um, I can do both, but I do really like to go to bed early, especially in the winter. Maybe that's a better answer. Is winter, I'm probably a little bit more of an early riser, and summer, I stay up a little bit later.
I feel like I sleep more in the winter than I do in the summer because in the winter it's darker, it's colder, the bed is warmer. So I don't know that I'm necessarily an early bird or a night owl when you consider the winter time. In fact, I've got a neighbor who's in his 90s across the street from me, and the neighbor next to him is in his late 50s, and for the last several years, he has the older gentleman purchased a really nice snowblower, and then the younger guy was doing all the snow blowing. And so this year, the younger guy, his job is making him commute to and from southern Indiana every week for some electrical work on Facebook buildings. And it pains me to see him driving that far. That's crazy. But I have a feeling that I am going to now be getting a bigger snowblower and doing 3 driveways every single time it snows. So I'm hoping for like 1 or 2 snows this year. But yeah, it's kind of scary and intimidating to do 3. It's going to be nice to have a bigger one, but I'm not going to be able to sleep in and also go to bed early anymore, Sarah. I'm going to have to go to bed early and then get up early. And thank goodness Charlie's I think his dad purchased a bunch of extra pairs of overalls a couple years ago, and one of them was too big for Charlie, so I got these massive overalls that are Carhartt that they're so nice and warm. I could be out there for hours and not get frostbitten. So that'll be me all winter long.
Yeah, it tends to happen like the neighbors to the north, south, and west of us are all older retired folks. The people right across the street from us, he fell and hurt his hip. The lady to the north last year, she had shoulder surgery. And then the gentleman and wife to the south of us, they just don't get around as easy. So Gordy and I would have our tasks. He would start in the front on the driveway. But because our dogs are, this big, I would have to go and shovel the backyard. He would start on the front. Then, so we tag teamed typically at least 3, sometimes all 4 driveways, but then sometimes other neighbors would come and help too. So I totally know what you mean. It gets your good blood pumping right
Wow.
away in the morning, though.
That is a lot. Way to go. Good for you, Sarah. I am not that athletically inclined, but good for you. Favorite TV show?
Old school Friends.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
I guess you don't usually indulge in all the sweets like I do here at the office, so that makes sense. Trains or planes?
I've never been on a train, so I have to say plane.
So, funny story about that. My wife and I were considering taking a quick trip out to Chicago on Black Friday because my wife has always done that, leaving out of the Quad Cities area with her family. And they get like a charter bus with a whole bunch of other people, and they go out there and they leave bright and early on Friday morning, and they get back like at midnight or something Friday night. And I said, maybe we should do that with the train out of Osceola. And I've never even looked into prices or anything. It was like $180 a ticket, plus that's one way. So you pay $180 both ways times two. And then you also, if you have a carry-on, it's $25. If you have a checked bag, it's $50. Like, they literally have turned it into an airplane, but I'm told it takes like 7 hours to get out there, and from what people have told me, it's not consistently on time. So if you're the first stop, you're in luck, you're on time, but otherwise after that, you're not. I don't know that I really want to do a train. I think it sounds super cool. I don't know that I'm going to do it. It just seems inefficient and expensive I could just hop in the car and drive over to Chicago in 5 hours. And yeah, I got to be the one driving, but pretty soon I can just get a car to do that for me. I don't even have to do it.
I did not realize that train tickets were that expensive. I had no idea. I've never even looked into it. Not a clue.
Even there's like you can get your own cart, right? So you have your own little area. It's got like a private shower and a couple of beds or something. And it's supposed to just be for two people, I believe, or maybe four, something like that. But it was $300, which I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I might as well just do that and pay for $300 for the, and maybe it was cheaper. Maybe it was like $120 actually for a seat, but still it's like, that's $240, or do I just pay the extra $60? But then everything is like an extra $50 here and an extra $25 there, and you got to have food, you got to have water. It's 7 hours and it's not consistent. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, but I was so disappointed that the train was not more economical. Phone calls or texts?
I love a good old school phone call. I really do. I think you can just get so much said and done faster. I know that kind of sounds old school, but I like phone call.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Burgers or tacos?
A taco burger? Gosh, that's a hard one, Kyle. I don't
Okay.
know. I would maybe, I'm gonna go taco.
And the easiest one of all, Cyclones or Hawkeyes?
Hawkeyes.
There you
All the
go.
way.
That's why you're still allowed to be on this show.
I am, however, actually going to go to Jack Trice this weekend. So, I know. uh, it is, it's gonna be fun, and I am looking forward to it. My dad went to Iowa State, and he loved his Cyclones, and we always had little wagers. Typically a six pack of beer as far as for who would win the Iowa State game, or when Iowa State and UNI would play. So I know I'm a diehard Hawkeye fan. I will go for Iowa State if they're not playing Iowa. But I am looking forward. Jack Trice is a cool place. It's just a cool place.
I will say I bet on the Cyclones to win. And then that way, if they win, I make money. And if they lose, I get to rub it in on a Cyclone fan. So either way, I'm kind of happy. That's a terrible way to do it, I'm sure. But all right, let's hop into the trending topic. So we've talked ad nauseum with our customers about this, and it is the worst thing that exists in the mortgage process today. But can you explain what trigger leads are and how they impact our borrowers or buyers during this process?
Absolutely. So when we go to pull somebody's credit, we'll put just very basic information in, only the information that's needed to pull credit. and try to get them pre-approved. And the second we do, there's little, I'm going to call them little mice because that's what they kind of seem like, little mice behind the scenes that are buying that information and immediately calling our clients and saying, "Hey, I can offer you something better. I can be better. I can offer you a lower interest rate. I can it's and I'm telling you multiple phone calls to our clients. Kyle, I just had a client the other day, and after she told me the number, I'm like, whoa, that's massive. She's like, okay, that might be a little exaggerative. She's like, Sarah, I think I probably got 150 phone calls. And I was like, holy bucket. She's like, it may have felt like that because it was just one after another.
Yeah, and that's insane. 150 phone calls. That's crazy. I uh, I will throw out there, and I'm excited for this. I'm encouraged by this. There is a bill that is sitting with the House and Senate, hopefully coming through soon. That is actually it's been added to the U.S. Defense Bill, and that's expected to pass sometime in November or December. And if anybody out there is listening and knows your senator or knows your governor, I would absolutely recommend you reach out to them and tell them your support for this. Realtors listening to this, I will tell you your customers are all getting blown up by this, whether they use us, they use anybody in town, they use a big bank, anywhere they go, if they have their credit pulled, they're getting these calls. And it's a really difficult thing for our customers. It's a really unpleasant experience. And so this bill is being put in place so that the only people that will be able to contact the customer are their current servicer, who they've already got a relationship with because that's who they're making their payments to, whoever they did their loan with, like us or their bank or credit union, whoever, and whoever they have open accounts with. So, like, they've got a Capital One credit card, they might get a Capital One phone call. So obviously, if they got a lot of accounts, they could get a few phone calls. But still, those are established relationships, and the customer is gonna know who that is when they say, "Hey, it's Capital One calling you about a mortgage option," right? So that will substantially cut down on a lot of these calls. And I can't say it anymore. Please reach out to your leaders in your state, in your area, because it is so important that this gets passed. I have so many hard conversations with customers. They think that we've sold their information. We think that we're trying to hurt them. In fact, I even had one customer who paid $600 towards what he thought was an appraisal, and they just called him up and said, "Hey, I see you're trying to work with a mortgage lender. Let's go ahead and get you started on the process, and we need your credit card information so we can get that appraisal ordered." They went through all this stuff. He texted me and I was like, "Hey, I just talked to your assistant." And I said, "I don't have an assistant." And he goes, "Oh no." And so I got on the phone with him, and turns out he had to cancel his credit card. Actually, it was his debit card even. But he had to cancel his card because somebody pretended to be part of the process and got involved and got him going. So got that canceled, got him taken care of. He closed on his loan, and all. With all of that said, he was also someone who lost his house in the tornado earlier this year out in Redfield. So he was already going through a lot, and then to have that on top of it, it ruins the process. It really does. So contact your leaders and show your support for this. Sarah, thanks so much for joining the show today. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think we're going to get through this, and everybody on the other end is going to hear it nice and smooth and clean. Let's hope my editing it works out great. But Sarah, can you tell us how can any customers or agents get a hold of you if they listen to something today that piques their interest?
Absolutely. You can reach me on my cell at 321-7322, or our website at teamfuller.com. Oh my gosh. Yeah, sorry. I haven't said that out loud for a hot second. So thank you for having me on, Kyle. This has been really fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining the episode today. It was a pleasure having you and sharing your insights with all of us today. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you found it valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. And if you know Sara, maybe reach out to her and tell her how awesome she did. And remember, stay curious. We'll see you next week.